So good afternoon. Welcome to the introduction to the newest Revisto 4.0. My name is David York. I'm a recent employee of Revisto and Revizto here in the UK. I joined at the beginning of March this company after getting introduced to Revisto earlier this year at Autodesk University. I'm an 8-year employee with Autodesk, and I ran the AEC business here in Northern Europe. So I know a little bit about this market space and a little bit about the BIM market. New to the Revisto products, but from what I've seen and what my customers see, it's doing some really, really good things. So who is Revisto and who is the company? The company was founded back in 2008 to bring gaming technology into the AEC industry, with the purpose of simplifying the heavy workflows and to make use of the large amount of data created in the AEC design process. In 2012, Revizto launched the product Revisto, and since that time we have had over 60,000 people download and access and use the product to its current version where it is today. Since the beginning, we have worked closely with those users to understand the workflows and how they're using the product. And we continually engage with them to identify ways to improve the product and continually releasing improvements to the product to this point we are today, releasing our most current version, 4.0. Now 4.0 is a major release for us. We began working on it back in September of last year to make sure that we incorporated some major changes to the product to make it more efficient and easier to use for you as a business. So let's go ahead and get started. Before I jump into the presentation, I'm going to practice with a few of the poll questions to give you a chance to use your voting buttons on the right-hand side of your screen. So the first poll I'm going to launch is, what best describes your business? What type of business do you work in? Is it architectural design? Is it engineering design? Multidiscipline? Go ahead and click on the buttons and we'll give it a few minutes to make sure that everybody has a chance to vote. Got a lot of architects on the call today, it looks like. Okay, 74% are voted. One or two more people to do their votes. 79%. One more second to get your vote in. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the poll. I'll share it with you just so that you can see it. 45% are architectural design, 26% are from multidiscipline, 16% from construction. So that'll give you an idea how this polling process works, and will give you an idea of how you can interact as a part of this presentation. So one more quick question for me. I've told you a little bit about Revisto and a little bit about myself. Now I'd like to know a little bit more about you. Are you using Revisto in your organization today? Give you a quick chance to vote so I can understand whether you're using it or not. Okay, 72% voted. 80%, 83. Okay, we'll go ahead and close it there. And we'll go ahead and share the results so you get a chance to see it. So 41% of you are using Revisto, which is great. Thank you very much for your business. And whopping nearly 60% are new to Revisto. So I'm going to spend a little bit extra time as we go through the presentation, more importantly the demonstration, to show you some of the key functionality of Revisto and how it can add value to your business. Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on. So what is Revisto? Simply, it's a program that allows people to share and use building information modeling data created in your design environment, irrespective of whether it's Revit, Navis, ArchiCAD, Tekla. It allows people who have no idea how to use those technical platforms but are still in the design team to access, visualize, collaborate, and present the BIM data on a daily basis. Revisto gives the ability to instantly share that project data, gathering feedback from those people who are not using the design tools on a daily basis, and they don't have the understanding of how to work within those complicated projects. So Revisto is fully integrated into the Autodesk platform. So Revit, Navisworks, AutoCAD, Civil 3D, etc. You will find that we are natively integrated into those products. But it's not just Autodesk, we're also natively integrated into the SketchUp product and the ArchiCAD products within the markets that are being widely used today. In addition to those native integrations that we have, we also support many of the industry standard file formats that are out there. So whether it's FBX from Filmbox, IFC industry foundation classes for my colleagues in Europe and Northern Europe, BIM collaboration formats, so BCF formats are starting to become pretty common out there, as well as the standard PDF documents, 2D PDF documents that are out there. Revisto supports and engages with all those products. We also are constantly developing our relationship with third-party vendors in the AEC market space. We were one of the first AEC applications to provide plug-and-play support for the Oculus Rift virtual reality goggles. And we still continue to support Oculus, and we've got a newer version coming out earlier this summer that we're in the process of testing now with our 4.0 version. But it's not just technology partners. We also engage with a lot of local partners in different regions. For example, here in the UK, we have engaged with a company called Igloo Vision. Igloo provides a 360 immersive cave environment for people to do design reviews and be fully immersed in their design. They're using Revisto to be able to allow users to explore their AEC and BIM projects within that caving environment. And we also integrate with a lot of the common tools that are used in the industry today. For example, if you're using the 3D connection mice out there in your design department, Revisto fully supports that from a user tool within its product set. So before we jump into 4.0, I'd like to know a little bit about your experience for those people that are using the product today. So I'll just open up another poll. So for the 41% that are using Revisto today, how are you using Revisto? Are you using it to share your building design with customers, design team collaboration, marking up drawings, RFI process, field collaboration? Go ahead and give you a chance to vote and interact with the presentation that we're doing today. Okay, we're starting to get some votes through. Just give it another minute. About 31% have voted. So give it a chance for a few more people to come in and let us know how they're using it. Again, the polls are interactive. You get a chance to vote on screen. Pick the button which most addresses you. That's 40%. That should be about all those people that are using Revisto within our group. So I'll go ahead and close that, and I will share that so we can see, and for those that are not using Revisto today, you can see that a good majority of our users are using it for sharing building design with customers, so in that interactive stage with their customers, but also a large percentage, 47%, are using it to work with their design teams in collaboration on the design. To give you an idea of some of the workflows that's being used today. So now that you're warmed up on the polls, I'm going to go ahead and use two more quick polls before we get into 4.0. So within your businesses, I'm looking to understand the size of the business for the people that are here on the presentation today. So within your businesses, how many users do you have within your organization? 1 to 20, 20 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 50, or 250 plus? And for those not using Revisto, you can go ahead and tell me what size organization you have so I can get an idea of the audience that's out there. Give it another second here. 82% have voted, 84%, nearly 90%. Okay, great. Thank you very much. So I'll share that with the audience very quickly to give you a view. A good portion of you are in 1 to 20 firms, and the second largest group is 250 plus. And the final question before I get into the 4.0 piece is just to let you know, for those that are in and using Revisto, are you currently involved in the 4.0 beta? And I'll give it just another second. %. Okay, great. And I'll go ahead and share that with you. Looks like 82% of you have not seen the 4.0 yet, so this is going to be, even for those that are using Revisto today, this is going to be a good information for you. Thank you very much for taking that. I appreciate it. So I'm going to move on with the presentation. So within 4.0, we have several new features and functionality, and I'm going to go through it in detail in the presentation. But the main changes affect the application viewer. It impacts our 2DF support for PDFs. It also impacts how we update the projects within Revisto. We've brought in a scheduler for the export process, and we also have all new markup tools available for you to use. In a little bit more detail, within 4.0, for those that have used Revisto before, you no longer are taking in a workflow through the Revisto editor before you get to the reviewer when you do your exports. So when you export out of Revit or Navisworks or your key authoring tools, you go directly into the Revisto viewer. It makes it much simpler from a processing perspective. Now I will show you that the editor functionality is still there and still available for you to use, and you'll be able to get access to that. The second big change is, as I mentioned, was about exports. So no longer within Revisto, once you're using 4.0, will you have to manually export your projects. You can automate your exports on a time basis, so you can set them up to be exported and current before your design review meetings. So if your review meetings are on a Monday, you can set your exports to happen at midnight on the Sunday, so everything is taken care of. Revisto will actually go ahead and automatically launch Revit and will do the export and bring the most current version in for you. The next big functionality is that we've made it much easier to merge changes into a project once a project's been loaded in Revisto. So when you load your consolidated model and people are using it and viewing it, and then you have your external MEP engineer working on the design model, they can upload and append their MEP model to that existing model as the changes happen. So they no longer have to wait for current models to be published to see what changes they need to be made and then get it launched back into Revisto. We've also made it easier to work within your collaboration teams. We've given you the ability to export just your sheets, so your 2D drawings, into the Revisto workspace. We've also given you the ability to set up projects that are just 2D based as opposed to having the 3D model in there. If you're working with field teams or pre-construction teams that are on site and you just want to be able to work and mark up and annotate around 2D drawings, you have the ability to do that within Revisto. And then as a key part of that, if you're working with external firms or firms that just want to publish PDF drawings to you, you have the ability to import those PDF drawings and mark up and annotate them and make them a part of the modeling process within Revisto. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and close down the PowerPoint, and I'm going to launch Revisto and show you what it's all about. So just go into my desktop, and I've got an icon that says Revisto Viewer. I'm going to come into my workspace, and the first thing you notice when you launch Revisto Viewer is you come into a workspace that has all your projects in there. And within the projects that you see in front of you, you can see that I've got some projects that are local, and I'm going to use some tools within GoToMeeting to highlight some things on the screen. And you can also see I've got some projects that are cloud-based. So Revisto supports the ability to, when you load projects, to either store them locally or to store them in the cloud. We use Amazon servers to provide storage for the model data within Revisto and all the security that comes behind that service that's available worldwide. And we do use local servers within each of the different areas. So for example, for my clients here in the UK, we're using Amazon servers in Ireland to store the information, so the information is stored locally. We also have, to show you one of the new functionalities of 4.0, you can see I've got a project here that says Webinar Demo 4.0, and it tells me I have an update available. So one of the changes of 4.0 is the fact that we do have the ability to see quickly within your projects where your updates are, so you can click in and you can see what the update was, and you can notice whether there's any changes. And you'll also notice within this, I've got a project that just is PDF documents. As I mentioned before, you've got the ability to create projects for just 2D. And I've also got a project here that just has the MEP piece of the model as part of the project. And as we go through the demonstration, I'm going to append that with the architectural model from Revit so you can see how that works and how easy it is to do. So real quickly, while I'm in this workspace, I'm going to go into this project that has an update available. I'm going to click on it, and you're going to see in the upper right-hand side of the viewer screen, I've just highlighted it there for you, that we have a little clock with an arrow. When I click on that clock with an arrow, and when a project's highlighted, it gives me the revision history of that project. So you notice that that project had a update notification on it, and I can see that Armin Gukasian has updated that project as of the 3rd of May at 3:30. So I can choose to use that current version when I go to open that project, or I can actually choose to go to the previous versions if I want to see the history of where those projects were. Again, a change within 4.0 that allows you to much easier track when changes come into your projects, and also being able to see the history of how that project has changed. You also see within the viewer, I have the ability to open up various projects. I'm going to go into the Day Law Office real quick, just to give you an example of the visualizations that are available for the projects that are loaded into Revisto. So just watch the audience screen to make sure that we're catching up with the feed. And as you see within the project, it comes in very realistic in view. And one of the key things about Revisto is the ability to get this 3D view and the accuracy of this 3D view from the model without going through the complex process of creating renderings like you would if you're doing 3ds Max, etc. You can also see not only do we have the detailed view and the great view, I can navigate through that as I've been doing. I can use the WSAD keys to move myself around. I can fly through the model. I can go into different rooms. But one of the key differentiators of Revisto, as opposed to some of the other visualization tools that you have out there, is I actually have the ability to pick on objects, and Revisto brings in not just the model, but actually the object data. So all the intelligence that comes from that Revit model is imported into the Revisto model. So you have the ability to see that intelligence, make decisions, for example, who provided this column that I just clicked on from Steelcase, and then make decisions as you go through collaboration. As you can see in this model, we have everything modeled, whether it's the chair, the desk, or the columns. So again, a great differentiator within the Revisto world. Now it's very easy within Revisto, if you're working on multiple projects, to switch between projects. If you go on the upper right-hand side or left-hand side of your of your viewer, you can see that we have a new drop-down menu, and you have the ability to click open. That takes you back to your workspace, and you have the ability to go into any of the other projects that you have there. So now the view's caught up. I'm going to go ahead and click into Camp-Field Architecture. And for those that have not seen Revisto before, I'm going to go through some of the core functionality. For those that are using Revisto already, bear with us as we come into some of the functionality for the business. So this is a sample project. I'm just going to go ahead and navigate into the project fairly slowly to give the webinar a chance to catch up. It's much easier when you're sharing screens, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute, to see things move around quite quickly. But I've just navigated in the model. You can see the textures, you can see the wood floor, you can see the visualizations quite good. I have in front of me a wall. I can double click on that wall and it brings up my metadata for that wall that's there, so I can see the information's there. But I can also, besides just the metadata and the object, I can actually turn those objects on and off so I can see what's behind the wall. If I want to go in and I want to see, oh, there's pipes behind that wall, I know it's a wet wall, I can turn all those type of objects off so I can see the information that's within the model. I can also navigate through. If I go up in the menu bar, you can see that there's an airplane in the menu bar. Let's highlight that real quick. That airplane allows you to switch between the fly mode, which I've been doing, and to work with a walk mode. So if I click on walk mode, it makes me as I'm an individual, and I can see from the individual height, I can navigate and move around the model and experience the model that's here. Once I'm in this mode and I'm looking into the model, I can actually do a number of things. If I'm working through a collaboration, I can come in and I can create measurements. I can create measurements based on the information's here. I can create distances between objects. For example, I just clicked on an air handler and I've just clicked on a wall, and that gives me a distance of 2.3 meters. I click on another wall, and that also changes the distance between those objects. I can snap between objects when I go to do measurements. I can also link and automatically snap between items to get measurements that are here. Also, one of the key functionalities of Revisto is the ability to do annotations and markup. So I'll go ahead and click on two objects. I'll get that measurement between those pieces. And I'll go ahead and create an issue. So very easy, by clicking on the plus button that's up here on the middle of our screen, I can create an issue. What that does, it takes a snapshot of that 3D rendering and gives me the ability to start marking up that 3D as if I was doing a collaboration view. So I'll just type the distance not sufficient for equipment access. Of course, I mentioned in 4.0 we've greatly improved the annotation and markup tools. I've got the ability to attach text boxes. When I attach those boxes, I can change the font and the text color. I can change the weight and the styling of the arrows. I can also change the weight and the colors of the lines that I'm using. I also have the ability to highlight, for example, the measurement. I can do drawings around that. I can change the type of lines, and I can do the pretty swirly clouds that architects so seem to like here in the UK. Once I've done marking it up, I simply click the Done button at the right-hand side, and that opens up my issue tracker activity within the viewer. And you can see here at the top is the issue that I've created, as well as a lot of detailed information about the issue that's been created. For example, the status is open. I can change the status. I can change who it's assigned to. I can also change tags that are within that issue. So I'll go ahead and erase those. I'll pull my picking tool. And so I'm going to mark that as in progress. I'm going to assign it to Armin, who I know is online because I saw Armin come online. And I'm also going to add a tag to this so that my contractors can check it. And by doing that, I now have an issue that's completely searchable. Now, what's happened when I assigned it to Armin is it sent an email to Armin to let him know that he had an issue to work on. And it also created an audit trail in a very simple feed type of approach that shows a snapshot of the issue. It shows who created it and what changes I've made. And I also have the ability to attach files. If I have a safety document, for example, that I want to attach, I can attach those into this feed and have them be a part of that issue. And as you can see, I can click through the different issues that have been created and see those issues and work through them as a team to be able to validate it. Now, since Armin's into the meeting, I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the 3D view and show you a key functionality within Revisto that allows you to work and collaborate within teams without using WebEx or trying to get everybody in the same room. So we have a functionality. You see my menu on the left-hand side. We have something called camera sharing. I'll click on that, and I see in my right-hand side I've got a list of the team members that are online. I'll just give it to Armin, and now Armin has full control of the navigation within the model. So I've given Armin the control, and he should be able to navigate now and fly around the model and take me to the areas of information that is interest to him, so I can see, directly live as he's working on it, what's important to him from a navigation perspective. And you can see he's switching between views, he's showing box views, he's moving around, interrogating and interacting with the model, which allows us to quickly narrow in to a possible issue within the MEP structure. Okay, I'm just going to take control back from Armin. That functionality gives you a great ability to interact with colleagues while you're online, but not necessarily connected through a webinar or in the same meeting room. So within this model, we also have the ability to view the 2D documents. So for example, I've just clicked on 2D in the upper right-hand side of the screen, and I've got a list of my 2D drawings. I can double-click on a drawing, takes me to that 2D. Many times when you're collaborating with construction teams, they're used to working in a 2D environment, and it's very difficult for them to work in a 3D environment. We recognize that from the Revisto's perspective. So when we engaged with Autodesk and we started bringing models in, we decided to bring in all the information, including the 2D drawings, to give you the ability to work within that 2D environment with those construction teams or those individuals that are used to 2D, but at the same time still have the full 3D information. Now if I go down here and I click on the screen box, what that actually does is it overlays the 2D drawing over the top of the model with all the 2D information as well as the 3D model that's there. And I also have the ability to drag the level of that 2D drawing down through the basement or up through the different layers of the building from floor to floor. And that quickly and easily allows people to orient themselves to the model, to the information, and being able to work with it, whether it's looking at the room information or it's looking at the 3D model and being able to navigate where they need to go to get access to something. And then from all these views, of course, you still have the ability to create issues. And it works the same as the issue I showed before, where it takes a snapshot and gives you a chance to annotate and mark up that snapshot. And of course, highlight information for the users that are there. But it's not just the markup within the 3D. If I go back to the 2D, I come back into our floor plan, you can see I can come into this floor plan, I can create an issue, it creates a box, I can drag it to the information area that I want it in, and I can mark it up. I'm just going to say simply the door is not to spec. I'm going to point to the door. I'm going to draw a none and a regular box around it. But it's not just the one door. I've got multiple things in this markup or in this 2D view. So you can see I can zoom out. I can zoom back into a different part of that same sheet, and I can continue marking up within that same issue and save that information as necessary. That's an improvement for 4.0, allowing you to do multiple markups into a single issue on a sheet. I can continue marking up around the sheet for that information that's there. And again, same functionality as I showed you before within Issue Tracker. It saves that issue, has the information about whether it's open or closed, who it's assigned to, as well as the history of that issue that was created. Now within those issues in the Issue Tracker, we also have the ability to filter and search on issues. If you remember, I added a tag to the first issue for contractors. I'll click on that, and you can see it's taken me back to the issue that I created and that I assigned to Armin, and I can open that up simply being able to search through that. Now within Issue Tracker, within all these projects, I have the ability to report on those issues that are created very simply by clicking on the report button. And you can see the Armin's marking up this issue and updating it as we're going along. And I can see in that issue live on the screen, and you can see it too, that we have new updates. I've just circled it in yellow for you to see. And if I open that up, I will see that audit trail, as I mentioned before, that shows the new markup and the changes that Armin's made to that. So we have a full collaboration process going on that's easy to see. I also, before I come in and show you more functionality of 4.0, I just want to show you the reporting function on the issues. You can see I have an icon here on my screen that gives me the ability to create reports. And by clicking on that, what that icon does is it takes me into my workspace, and within that workspace I can go into projects. So I'm just going to open up a project that was shared with me. You can see the workspace, open up a project. When the project's open, I've got the choice of looking at the details of the project, or I can go to the dashboard, and I have the ability to create a report. When I create a report, I have the ability to choose the time of that report. I'm going to do it for the current month. I can also choose to have it reported out on specific information, such as the tags that were created. I can also report out based on the assignee, so I can validate whether people I've assigned the work to, whether they're working through it. I can also look at specifically, the assignee or the reporter. Once that report's created, you can see it shows me the details. I can see my open issues. I can see the ones that are in progress. I can also see the ones that are missing deadlines. And again, it's got all the issues and the clashes that are in there. But it's not just the report that's created online for me to view. I also have the ability to adjust the delivery of those reports. I can send in Excel format or PDF format, and I can send it to any of the recipients that are within my team or external recipients if I want to share them with somebody. When I send that report, the report has key information in it that's very easy to see, and I'll bring that up here shortly. Now just going back into my workspace, I want to show you how easy it is to link to the Revit environment. So we're in the Campfield project, architecture project, as you can see when I go back to the 3D. And you can see we had a number of markups and information that's there. Now if I come back into my, I'll go ahead and close out of my Revisto viewer, and I'll open up my Revit environment. And I'll open up that project. Open up my Campfield architecture. And for those that work in a Revit environment, Revit day-to-day, it's a tool that works great, and it really does a good job for engaging. But for those that don't work in Revit on a daily basis, or don't use Revit as a part of their project creation process, you can see how complex Revit is. And this is exactly why Revisto is here. It makes it easy for people to interact with the model without worrying about clicking on something wrong and, oh, did I change the model? Do I have to go back and create updates? It takes you from that modeling environment into a safe environment that you can interrogate the model. So I've got the project open in Revit, as you can see. And within Revit, I've got tabs for Revisto, so it's natively integrated into the project. You can see I've got an export tab, I've got issue tracker, I've got new issues and an export scheduler. I'm just going to click on issue tracker, and you can see what it's doing is it's linking to Revisto. It's opening up the viewer, and it's bringing me directly back into that project, and it's actually bringing me into the issue tracker. So you can see the issues that I created. So the door not to spec was an issue I just created. We have a section box issue. We also have the distance to the hallway issue that we had. Now here's a neat functionality, and this beats a lot of the other tools or ways that you might be collaborating today. So we're collaborating in Revisto, but we also have our Autodesk environment with our model there. Very simply, I double click on that issue within Revisto, and it automatically takes me to that point in the model, that Axiom view, so that I can see exactly what changes I need to make and what do I need to address as an engineer or designer working in the Revit tool. No longer do I have to look at emails with screenshots. No longer do I have to look at a 2D markup and being able to link back into the model and see where that information is. So quite simply, any of the information that's there, I can go into my issue tracker. I can double click on the issue, and again within Revit takes me automatically directly there to that point. I also have the ability to set the exports. I've had a request in one of the questions to come into a section cut. And open that up within Revit. So again, we've got a Revit model in the home view. Go into the issue tracker that is created with section cut, and you can see it shows that same section cut within the Revit environment. Again, the interoperability between Revisto and the native authoring tools, whether it's ArchiCAD, SketchUp, Revit, Navisworks, AutoCAD, is one of the key differentiators that makes the ability to work in that environment quite well. I also mentioned the fact that we have new export tools within 4.0. As you can see, you have an export to Revisto process here. I can click on that, and what it does is it actually brings in the information that I'm looking from this model and gives me the ability to either append it as a new model, override existing, being able to link it to what model I'm going to link it to, and actually takes me through to, do I want to bring in everything? Do I want to bring in the 2D drawings, or do I want to bring in specific information that's there? So I'll come out of that right now. I'm actually going to close this Revit model. And within Revisto, if you remember, I had a project that was an MEP project. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that project. I need to close out Campfeld. I'm not going to sync it at the moment. Open up the 3D. There's no issues on this one. I just want to show the appending of the model coming in. So you see we have our MEP model here, and that's all we have within this project. I'm going to come back into Revit. I'm going to open up my architecture piece of the Campfeld model. Open that up, and you can see that there's no MEP pieces as a part of this model. I'm going to come to my Revisto tab. I'm going to export to Revisto, and I'm going to append to that model that's there with my Campfeld Architecture Revit piece. Go ahead and export. It gives me a choice of whether I want to export all the sheets or just the 3D. I'll go ahead and fire that off as I come back in and show you some other information within Revisto, and that'll quickly export that project into, and we'll be able to see when we open up that project within the Revisto viewer, the changes and the ability to see the whole project. While that's going, I'm just going to come back into the original Campfeld piece that we're working on and show you some other core functionality. As I mentioned, we've got the ability within Revisto to look at the 2D drawings, but I also have the ability to bring in PDF drawings to be a part of this. So I'm just going to pick a PDF drawing, going to open it, and as that's opening, it is actually bringing in that Campfeld MEP model. You see that upload's done, and you can see now within that Campfeld MEP project that I had before, Campfeld MEP land, you can see that my project is now appended. I've got the architecture piece as well as the original MEP piece that was there, and if I go into my objects, I can open my project objects up, I can turn my architecture off, keep my pipes on, and you can see there's my MEP piece. There's my architecture piece that I just updated. So very easy to append the model and also see those changes that are there. I'll just close out of that. Come back into the 2D PDFs I was just getting ready to show you. Can open that sketch. Brings in my sketches. I get the ability to attach or link it. Open up my list of drawings. And now you can see that 2D sketch plan is there and available within Revisto. Let's give the screen a chance to catch up. And I have a 2D drawing now, and that 2D drawing I can zoom in just like any of the other 2Ds that were there. I can also create my issues just like I did before. I can annotate. I can mark up. I can zoom back out, move to a different part, zoom back in, continue to mark up, hit done. And now you see I've got that PDF drawing that was not a part of my project, but I imported it, made it a part of my project, and it's captured in the same audit trail process that we used before for being able to link the model together. So one last piece I wanted to show you within 4.0 and within the Autodesk environment. So I'm in Campfield Architecture Demo. I've got my issues that I've created. I'm going to go ahead and close out of Revisto. Going to go ahead and exit Revit. I'm going to bring up Navisworks. And give the Autodesk product a chance to open up here. I'm going to open up my Campfield Architecture model. That's going to create my NVC. Within Navis. And as it's doing that, it's bringing the information from that model. Opens up Navis. I'm going to go into Revisto 4 tab, just like you had within the Revit environment. I'm going to click on Issue Tracker. That brings in my issues that I had before. You see I've got my Campfield model in front of us. Go to Issue Tracker. I want to look at the clashes. You can see I have a clash here. Double click on the clash. You can see the history to it. And that'll be reflected within the Navisworks environment. I can also export the clashes from clash tests that are created. And link them into Revisto. I don't have any clashes. Let me go create a clash very quickly. See, I've got 118 clashes. Typically, when you're working with these, you'll create groups. Move some of these clashes into that group. And I will go ahead and move some more of these into that group. And once that clash is created, I can go back into my Revisto 4. I can export my clashes. That links it back into the model from Navis. So you can see I've got my tests there. If I expand those, you can see I've got my test clashes, but I also got my hard clash group there at the bottom that I created. Go ahead and export those into Revisto. You can see it happens very quickly. Opens up the viewer. And I've imported those clashes now simply into Revisto. Now I can work on those clashes just like any other issue that was created. I can manage the opens. I can put them in progress. I can assign them. I can link them together. And it also has the hard clash grouping that's there. I can go in and I can look by groups. Test one to see the clashes I've just brought in. And if I close out of Revisto, just to show you the link back into Navisworks again, if I come into Revisto 4, go to Issue Tracker, click on that, it opens up my viewer, opens up Revisto again, and so I'm a design engineer, I'm working in Navis, but I've had a collaboration meeting that's been going on, they've been working in Revisto. I can go into those clashes, double click on the clash, and you can see it takes me to that exact same point within the model. Just wait for the screen to catch up. Now you should see, again, it takes me to that same point in the model, pick another clash, double click on it, and again, it takes me to that part within Navis. That bidirectional link, that link between the issue tracker, getting those clashes out of Navis, getting them assigned to the collaboration teams, being able to work on, being able to manage those, change the model, and then re-export them back into the Navis environment and see those issues directly in the Navis environment is a very slick and a great workflow to working. If those clashes have been addressed and bulk updated, when they're brought back into Revisto, they'll actually be automatically closed. Those issues will automatically be closed and taken out of the workflow. And then finally, from a 4.0 perspective, I've showed you the linking with the 2D, the 3D. I wanted to show you that within the project settings, you can see the different files that are associated to it. You still have the ability to share the project either internally or externally. You can change quickly who can edit, who has access rights or remove them. So user management's very easily within our projects. You can adjust the visuals of the product, and you still have the ability to use the full functionality of the editor tool within Revisto. I'll just open up the editor very quick. This opens up the model that you were just looking at within that project. And again, we can see we are looking at the Kampfeld model within editor. And I won't go through the full functionality of the editor, but it gives you the ability to set your viewpoints of where you're going to start for the viewpoints coming in. It also gives you the ability to do things like set environmental settings, time of day, location for the project, and as you change that time of day, it changes the sun path and the shading of the project. And again, let it catch up. You can also change where the project's located. You can change the light sources. You can change your heat maps. And your light maps you can bake in with all the detail that's available that's been brought over from your model into the Revisto environment. So I hope that's been beneficial, taking you through the 4.0 functionality. We're coming towards the end of our webinar, but before we finish up, I just wanted to go back in and share with you a few more things. The beta for 4.0 is open. Whether you're a user of Revisto or not, you can go to this website, and I'll share this data with the attendees so that you can click on, you can download, and you can start using Revisto 4.0. You can load a model into it, you can start playing around with it within your environment. Before we finish up, I want to ask a quick question of the audience, or two quick questions. So remember the polling activity that we had before? I just wanted to ask you who will be using Revisto to simplify your collaboration process based on what you've seen. And it looks like the attendees that are with us do see benefit in the collaboration process, and there is some interest. We'll give it a few more seconds for everybody to get a vote going. And we'll go ahead and close that and share. Again, it looks like 68% of you said yes, it'll add value to your collaboration process. And those users that are using it today find huge value in collaborating, taking that complex design out of the Revit environment or the Autodesk environment and putting it into a very easy to use interface that people can play around. They can interrogate the model without worrying about changing that Revit key pieces. We do have some questions. I'll just pick on those questions very quickly to make sure that we get them answered. I had a question from earlier in the presentation. How do you get PDF plan sheets to line up with the model? Again, it's based on coordinates. When you bring it in, you can link that coordinate back into the model. I do have a workflow, and I'll be glad to make contact with you or have one of our colleagues make contact with you after the presentation to walk you through that workflow. Here are the contacts. We've made a big investment over the last year in people to engage with you in the marketplace, share with you best practices, and help you maximize your use of Revisto. We have Nathan Luckenbill, who just joined us, who's covering the West Coast of the U.S. for us. We have Mark Szizowski, who's covering the Midwest for us, and Greg Keller in the Northeast. And of course, you have myself, David York, to help you out here in Europe with your needs from a Revisto perspective. I will be taking information from this this webinar and coming back to you as the audience and being able to answer the detailed questions that we might have. So again, those contacts for you to see, Nathan, Mark, and Greg. Information's on their website if you need to get to it, but I'll be glad to share that with you. And then finally, before we finish up today, since I see we don't have any other questions, was this webinar good for you? Did it accomplish the goal of sharing with you the 4.0, and what did it add value to your worth your time seeing? This is a bit of a question for me to see whether I did a good job or not, and whether I need to work on it a little bit better. I'm pleased to see the voters coming through quite quickly and almost unanimous that yes, it did answer what they're looking to do. For the ones you wanted more information, I'll make sure that we make good contact with you after the webinar. So if there are no further questions, I'm going to go ahead and thank you very much for being a part of our time today, and I look forward to working with you in your markets in the future. So thank you.